We have breaking news. Let's get right to it.
Past 24 hours, we've seen 34 new cases of COVID-19 here in Utah.
Following breaking news out of Utah, a magnitude 5.7 earthquake hitting just after 7 a.m. local time, about 10 miles west of Salt Lake City.
You need 100 to 150,000 tests a day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your man, Dread, the #1 Chief Rocker. Welcome back to Iso20Podcast. Thank you for clicking play. Today we have a little bit of a kind of a different format on this one. I have my man DJ Battleship come through and get on the phone with me. The reason why I had him get on the phone with me today is because my man he was diagnosed with COVID-19. He was diagnosed with the Rona really early in March when he had the Rona, and I just really came across him on social media. I think it was on Instagram or Facebook or something, and I seen that he had been written up in his local town that he's self-quarantining because he had the Rona. So nobody that I know has had it. Nobody that I know that knows somebody else has expressed that they've had it or expressed that they have went through it or anything like that. So bottom line is I don't know anybody that has faced this thing head on. So when he said that he had, I was like, I gotta talk to this man. I gotta talk to him. Plus, honestly, I haven't talked to him in a while, so I wanted to check up on him. The last thing I wanted to do is have this moment pass by, and who knows, he might get it again or something, and I could have been like, man, like I didn't even get the chance to say, I'm glad to hear that he's doing good or whatever, So I hit him up and I was like, yo, how are you feeling? He was telling me that he was feeling good, and he said that I asked him, I said, would you be willing to come on my podcast and kind of tell your story? Because I think that it's important to know and hear from people that have actually went through this virus, right? Because we hear a lot of professionals, we hear a lot of people that haven't really went through it. They're just going over what other people went through. So to actually have a first a response or an idea from somebody that actually went through it, this was really cool to have, and not really cool in the sense of it's cool that I got somebody with COVID to talk about it, but really cool to see what he's done to help prevent it spreading. Some of the things that he turned down as a DJ last minute that kind of put him in a weird position, and the cool thing from his clients. There's a lot of cool pieces in this story, in this conversation that I just had with him. So I'm going to shut up now. We're already 3 minutes in. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let you guys listen to this conversation, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. I guess we should start off by introducing you. I got my man Cruz Martinez, aka DJ Battleship. one of the top DJs in the state. Man, you got a bunch of accolades and things like that. I recently seen, I don't even know how I came across it. I think it was on your Battleship page, and just you were talking about an article or something and talking about COVID. So I was like, what the hell? No way. Out of everybody that I know, Cruz ended up with the COVID.
Yeah, unfortunately and fortunately, I do work with a lot of high-profile celebrities and politicians, and I'm kind of like a little bit in that sector, a little bit here and there with those private parties and everything like that. So even DJing in Park City, even if you have like a little gig somewhere, you come across people who travel frequently, and that's kind of what it kind of came from, was somebody who actually traveled from out of the country to Utah, and obviously, community transmission. So
how do you know who it came from or where it came from?
I'm not sure about that, about how it came from or who it came from, but we did have 2 cases in Park City prior to like when I got infected, and they were from people who were like from they were I guess what you would say visitors, like, so they were visiting from other parts of the country, maybe other parts of the world. And then people in Park City kind of started getting sick or whatever. But a guy came up to me. He was very sick, and I was DJing. And he came up to me, and he was coughing and sneezing, and he just did not look like he should be anywhere.
Oh, man.
And he came up to me and just told me I'm a great DJ and wanted to shoot my hand, and just got like hella close to me. And I was just like, oh my good God. And it was kind of funny because I actually had a friend out in Japan who contracted coronavirus. And so I kind of knew like what the symptoms were. I was talking to him a little bit here and there. And so, a little bit after that, you know what I mean? I was always kind of cautious about what would happen. What would happen if I were to get the symptoms, like what to expect. And for the most part, like mine and that guy's symptoms were pretty much the same, you know what I mean? So we both had the same kind of like trajectory. He's like, he told me especially, he's like, if it feels like a little cold, he's like, just stay the fuck home. And I was like, okay. And so I did. And sure as shit, like I started getting a fever, everything else kind of fall through with that. But pretty much like that one guy, was very sick, and I'm not saying that it was him or not, but like that's the one person that came up to me that was like visibly not well, and I could tell was like like, oh man, like I better stay away from this guy. But
what a compliment! What a way to get a compliment. Hey, you're a great DJ, and here's COVID with that as well.
Yeah,
what a side of COVID.
It was not fun. So
was he requesting a song?
No, I usually don't get that many requests, to be honest, and so it's kind of like very rare that somebody will come up to request a song. Most of the time I just I'm playing, and the people like want to come up and like watch what I'm doing really closely.
Yeah.
They want to buy me a drink or something, or obviously exchange compliments or whatever. And so when he came up, like, I kind of knew that he wasn't requesting a song. He looked a little happy. He's kind of bouncing around. He did look sick too, but like, he just came up and, just pretty much just came up to me, and he was just like, oh man, he's like, you're doing so good.
Oh.
And I was just like, okay. But for him, he didn't look like he was that bad. I mean, I obviously got it like a lot worse than he did, but then again, like, I don't know if he gave it to me or not.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, man. Like the whole coronavirus, the COVID-19 it's a really interesting thing. What were some of the symptoms that you experienced?
So the first symptom I experienced was like, I was just sneezing a lot, and that's kind of like what my friend told me in Japan. He was just like, yeah, I just started sneezing a lot. So I started sneezing a lot, and I'm the kind of guy that like never sneezes at all. You know what I mean? I see people like light it up sometimes, and they just can't stop sneezing. And
yeah,
I was like doing that. Like I would sneeze once, and then like 4 of the times after that. And I was like, Jesus, like, what is this? And I was like, am I getting allergies or something? And then on top of that, like the beginning symptoms were kind of like my nervous system kind of went through a thing too. So there was like a very strange feeling. Like, I mean, I'm a very muscle memory kind of guy. I'm very articulate, like with a lot of things with cooking, DJing. And so I noticed that there was like a little bit of a discrepancy, a little bit of a lacking in my movements in my hands and my fingers. And I've never had that from any kind of a flu or anything like that before. But my nervous system definitely was like, I would tremble, like I would shake a little bit here and there. And I was just like, that's kind of strange. And, I would start having this, cold going on. So the beginning was just like a common cold, but then again, there was like a little bit of like, of a dark side to it that I was kind of a little bit worried about, obviously.
Yeah, man. Did you hear about it before you got your symptoms? Like, were you aware of COVID? Because you got it pretty early, right?
Yeah, I did get it pretty early. I think I was like one of the first 1,000, 2,000 people in the United States to actually contract the virus. And it was pretty early on when I actually heard about it. I think it was like when I was leaving LA on December 15th. No, I was leaving. So I left LA 15th, and I came back. Well, I left LA on the 15th, and then I was driving down, and I think it was like a little bit like I think it was like a little bit like after New Year's, I started hearing about stories and that. So I mistake that because of Christmas, and so yeah, it was a little bit after Christmas, and I had DJ'd at Bar X. And then, I think so I DJ'd at Bar X on New Year's. And then so like after that, I started hearing a little bit about it here and there, just because I was like, it's the strangest thing. And this is going to sound really fucking weird, but like there was a girl I was dating in high school, She gave me this book called The Hot Zone. It's by Richard Preston, and it's about the Ebola virus in Africa, kind of like going around the world, how they stopped it, a little bit about viruses and how they work and everything. And so I've always kind of like read like medical journals and like little books on like, fiction and, a little bit, like biographies on in the medical field. And so I was very kind of like aware of like what was going on. And I find that kind of stuff interesting, to say the least. You know what I mean? I've always, kind of kept up with those things. And so I was actually pretty well versed in what happens with coronavirus, even before I got it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. It's a new virus. Obviously, symptoms and like how it gets, from person to person is kind of like not known yet. You know what I mean? So there was a lot that was like kind of like a gray area because it was such a new virus, but it was spreading so quickly.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
So knowing that you had a gig at Bar X and then you had the Park City gig. So, yeah. And you think that you got it from the Park City gig. Was there anything after that? Or did you kind of self-quarantine at that point?
I had a private event in Salt Lake for about 800 people.
Oh, shit.
Following that. So I had a private event. I'm not going to say too much about it because obviously, like, I don't want to like make it seem like I was like trying to play gigs or anything like that. But
yeah.
This is before everybody shut everything down. And so that following week, like I think it was like the 13th or 14th, maybe the 12th, I had a private gig in Salt Lake. It was about 800 people. And then I had Park City gigs that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And that's about like 2,000 or 3,000 people altogether. So maybe about like 5,000 people with all the gigs going on. And so I started feeling those symptoms. And then I talked to my friend in Japan. I'm like, this is what's going on. Should I cancel these gigs? He's like, I would definitely play it safe, and cancel those gigs. You don't want to give this to anybody else if you do have it. And I just had like a common cold, but it seemed like, you know what I mean? And I actually kind of felt like I was getting better. I was like, oh, hey, I kind of feel like I, might be able to play these gigs, and I was, actually going to show up to one the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
And so out of just weird fucking, I don't know, like I just pulled the plug on them. I just told them, I said, like, I called the guys and I was just, they were really mad at me, but obviously they were like forgiving afterwards,
Yeah.
But they were like, how could you do this? Why would you do this and all this stuff? But my job in Park City, the place I played up there in the cantina, they were very understanding and they actually shut down the entire club for the weekend. They weren't going to take any DJs in, anything like that. They were just like, because the owner actually told me, he's like, I think this is going to be a big event. I think that you need to go get tested so that we all know that we're okay or not, or whether or not we should quarantine. And so those gigs, you know what I mean? I canceled about 4 or 5 gigs, you know what I mean? Those were key, I think, in helping not spread it, So yeah. I think there would have been a lot more people in Salt Lake that were sick, in Park City that were sick, because those rooms that I was going to play in were so condensed and humid. And, I obviously had like a little bit of a cough, So, yeah.
Damn, that's crazy, right? So they were, they didn't like it. They didn't like that you canceled the gig. Obviously, they had to figure something out. But it sounds like you saved a lot of lives and stuff like that. Because who knows people's immune system? You really don't know your immune system until you get sick, right? You don't know if you can handle this shit until you get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. And everybody's kind of different on the spectrum, because the fact that, you have some people who obviously don't show any symptoms at all, kind of just get like a little bit of a cold with this virus. And people like me who are kind of like in the middle, where I got like a fever like for a long time, and I was just like very sick, and then wasn't hospitalized. And you have people who are hospitalized and then need to be put on oxygen. Then you have people who die, unfortunately, from the virus.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, there's like so much gray area with like the virus and what was known and what was known and what wasn't known. The what wasn't knowns were just so big and sporadic. That's kind of like what forced me into saying, like, okay, I've got to cancel everything. I've got to stay at home, and I'm going to quarantine myself, even though it seems like I have a little bit of a common cold.
What was your lowest of low during this?
Oh man, it had to have been like after I went to Davis Hospital. I went to Davis Hospital to go get. It was actually probably during Davis Hospital and after Davis Hospital. There was a point where, before that point, I had made myself a hazmat suit to take care of my dog, because I heard that animals could contract the virus. And so I had put her upstairs in a room. I had written notes in case like I had, my fever was getting really high. So I would take, a bunch of acetaminophen, kind of like a Dayquil, or whatever. And I wrote notes all over my back porch because my back porch is separate from my front room. And I put my dog upstairs and I washed her in this hazmat suit I made. I put her up there. I would put the hazmat suit on, give her food and water. I'd wash the hazmat suit, everything like that. And I put notes like all around the house saying like, my dog is back here. I passed away. I'm in the front bedroom. Please take every precaution necessary. Please take care of my dog. And then when I went to Davis Hospital, I had passed out like a few times.
While you're in the hospital?
Well, no, while I had the virus. And so I'd wake up and I would, throw up. I wouldn't be able to get enough air back into my body. And then I would just wake up on the bathroom floor. And from then on out, I was just okay, so I have to kind of think about the people who are going to come pick up my body, what's going to happen to my dog. I have to start thinking about everything else that's going on. So I essentially wrote out a will on my phone, and I put my dog upstairs, and then I went to Davis Hospital. I wrote a note that I could attach to my window that said, hey, I might have COVID. Please take every precaution to any officer or anybody else who's pulling over to check on me. And it's the weirdest fucking thing. So I went to the hospital. I felt terrible. But after I left the hospital, I felt better. I kind of felt like this little window, I just felt man, I feel pretty good. You know what I mean? I went home, my fever was a little bit lower, you know what I mean? And then my fever spiked again, the next couple of days after that. But then it, it kind of went away. But that moment right there was probably pretty low. The fact that you have to be on your own, you cannot have any contact with your family. You get this virus, it's unknown to how it works. And so it was one of those things where I was just I have to play it as safe as possible and separate myself from everybody, make sure that nobody else gets sick. You know what I mean? Check on everybody else, make sure that they don't get sick. But I also have to prepare for my own demise. You know what I mean? On top of this, because the fact that some people will rapidly go into, a crazy pneumonia, or people will rapidly go into this crazy, coma or something like that. You know what I mean? The virus was just kind of working its way through me. My blood pressure was really low too, as well. And so it was one of those things where I thought kind of at any minute, it could get really crazy, really dire. But I knew that I could not, and I would not call an ambulance to my house. You know what I mean? That was just out of the question for me, because I didn't want anybody else from the EMT service to get sick and get everybody else sick that went around. And so that was probably the lowest point. And I actually went into my cupboard during this entire time when I was very weak. I couldn't walk very well. And I took a bunch of canned soups out of my cupboard over here. And I'm just staring right at it. And yeah. And I took about 5 or 6 of them and I put them next to my bed, and I just started sipping on those for a couple days because I couldn't get up to heat my food. I had to plan when I went to the bathroom, I had to be okay, I have to get up and walk these 5 steps, you know what I mean? But I was so weak that even that was a chore. And so it was very, very low at those points, when I was writing up the will. But I tried to tell everybody that I was okay, but I wasn't okay, because I think a lot of people were kind of starting to worry. I keep my stories on my Instagram updated pretty often, and there was a few days where there was nothing, but I do have videos of myself with the disease. I do have videos of myself, with the hazmat suit that I made. I do have a lot of, I documented a lot of the stuff, but there were some parts where I was just I'm not a negative person, but I'm always a kind of person that tries to handle negative situations as best as possible.
Yeah.
And so I just decided, this is going to get real. This is sad, sure. But this is what I need to do to be as responsible as I can before anything crazy happens. So
are you planning on releasing that footage, the whole documentation that you had during that time?
Yeah, I could put out a couple videos here and there. I mean, mostly what you get is just me saying I'm sick, I don't feel good. Nothing too crazy like that. I do have pictures of the hazmat suit with my dog and everything, and kind of when I went to Davis Hospital. But I mean, for the most part, it's very vague. You know what I mean? It's not like anything crazy. Like I wasn't like recording myself like dying or anything like that. So.
I mean, essentially, you were. I mean,
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Did you not have any friends or family around you that wanted to come try to help you out, or was that something that you just did not want as far as help goes?
My mom stopped by. She lives out in Midvale. So my mom was out in Midvale, so she would stop by like a couple times and give me some food and like water, stuff like that. You know. Some drinks and juices. My dad lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and so he's pretty far away. So there's really no family or friends like kind of like around me. But I did have some people from Inner Ogden stop by and bring me some food. And the health department actually came by because I had told them early on like what was going on. They said, okay, that's good, you're quarantining, you know. And then like when they found out that I tested positive for COVID, they were just like, okay, well, we're going to bring you some soups and stuff like that, you know. Just in case, because I really don't have anybody at all, you know what I mean, anywhere. And so it was like one of those things where like, you know, I went to the store kind of like before I got sick, and I noticed that like, you know, there was like a lot of people there, and I was just like, yeah, I don't want to go in the store right now, you know what I mean. I'm like, you know, there's people are going crazy right now buying toilet paper and everything, and there was lines, and I was just like, yeah, you know, so I was just like, forget that, I'll just go home. And that's kind of, you know, what kind of ruined me with the food thing. So
did mom okay? Everybody that came by your house okay?
Yeah, everybody was okay. There was one girl in Park City that I came into close contact with, and to the point where like we were sharing food and drinks.
Oh shit.
Yeah, before I got sick, and she didn't get it, and her boyfriend, who I hang out with pretty often, didn't get it. And my mom stayed really far away from me. I was like practicing social distancing before anybody was, and I was just telling everybody to stay away from me. You know, like the DoorDash would come by, like drop the food off right there. I'll come out and grab it. You know, those kinds of measures. And so I kept a pretty good documentation of who and who didn't, you know, or who did not get the virus. And so there was a lot of people that I came into close contact with that I would call on the regular, like, how are you doing? How's it going? Where are you at? What's going on? And like, I'm at home. I'm staying here for 15 days, you know, and a lot of people were actually,
we're good.
I'm so sorry about. Yeah, a lot of people were actually okay with that, and so they were. They definitely, you know, ended up being okay from the virus, and so I was happy that I didn't give it to anybody else, and I was happy that I canceled those gigs because I think a lot of the people I came in contact with actually do work for a lot of events too, and so this could have like bounced all over like within a couple of days.
Oh yeah.
So,
take me through the process of the actual testing.
Man, so the testing is kind of crazy. Like when I initially called and I like wasn't feeling too good, I called to see if I can get tested for COVID, and it was like almost something that was kind of like out of the question, you know. And so like I had to like wait like 4 or 5 days until like Davis Hospital announced that they're doing drive-through testing, but I didn't have the energy to like kind of like wake up and go do that. So I had to like, you know, plan to go to the ER, but like obviously like when I went in, like I actually built a different kind of like hazmat suit to go into the ER. It looked ridiculous. Like I had my mask, my N95 respirator, I had my goggles on, I had my hood over myself, you know what I mean? I was zipped up with like a hoodie. I had like a different pair of pants on, like I had my shoes that I had washed down with Lysol wipes and everything like that. And so I walked into Davis Hospital without like, you know, any intention of giving anybody any kind of a virus. And so when I went in there, they were just like, okay, and I could barely write my name and everything. And they were just like, okay, let's get you tested for COVID. They brought me through. They took an x-ray of my lungs. They said, you know, you have like some spots in your lungs. Looks like you have pneumonia. And I was like, great. Because that's obviously like a bad sign when you have COVID. Like when you get the pneumonia, like it's really downhill from there. And they came in. This guy was wearing like this face shield. Like obviously he was like in one of those yellow like hazmat suits or whatever.
Yeah. He
came in, pretty much gave me like a Q-tip up the nose with like a little bit of like a solution on it. And so he went back there, swabbed, put it in the container. And I guess they were supposed to call me like the next day or 2 days later. And so like I didn't know if I had it or not. And I like waited like a few days. And I guess they got my phone number wrong on the thing. And so like they like Davis Hospital was like trying to call me, you know, and they were like, why isn't, And so Weber County, health department had to pretty much track me down and be like, oh, this is where he is. This is who he is. This is his phone number. And so they were able to go through, I'm sure, some routes to find out who I was, where I was, So I got a call from the Weber Morgan Health Department, and they pretty much told me, they said, so you tested positive for COVID, you need to kind of stay at home. You know what I mean? You need to stay at home for as long as you can, until you feel better. And then 3 days after that, after your symptoms kind of start going away, then you can be released from isolation. So it was one of those things where they set me up with a plan, you know what I mean, to kind of stay at home. And I was like, okay, that's obviously, that's obviously what I got to do. And so I started staying at home and everything like that. And I would get calls from the Weber Morgan Health Department once in a while, just checking on me, seeing how I was doing. So,
man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a crazy process. And I feel like anything your story is so, it's not normal. It's not like typically if you get sick, you go to the doctor, they tell you got it, and then they tell you to quarantine, right? But you had you're a DJ, so you're around a bunch of fucking people anyway, so you don't want to get anybody sick. So you're taking the right precautions. You got people being mad at you that's potentially messing up money down the line. You got people really not taking it serious. How do you feel about people not taking it serious?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of anxieties and misunderstanding about what's going on in the world. So for the most part, I don't blame them at all. It's one of those things where, I understand that, a lot of people think that they know something and maybe it's different, and I don't chastise anybody for being wrong or making mistakes. It's just one of those things that a lot of people do. But it's good to have kind of a sense of critical thinking in this time, you know what I mean? So for a lot of people who are mad at me and upset at me, I just told them, I said, this is what's going on. And then obviously I wasn't trying to slam it in their face, hey, I got COVID, and fuck you. It was so I was diagnosed with coronavirus. I'm so sorry about the event. This is what happened. One of the guys paid me still. He was just dude, here's the money. Thank you for not showing up. We didn't hire anybody. And, all this is going on right now. Cause I think that next week is when it started getting kind of crazy everywhere, you know what I mean? So he was thank you so much. And so he still paid me on top of that. But there is just, one of those things that I think with the question you asked, that's going to kind of change the way people perceive people who are sick, I think, from now on. I think that even the flu virus is going to kind of you're going to start to see less cases of the flu and the common cold within the next 5 to 10 years after this is all over, just because of the fact that people are starting to take more precautions than they ever were before. And so in regards to your question, I think that, people are upset now, but in the future, it's gonna better prepare them.
Yeah.
So
working in the club, I mean, you can attest to this. It's a disgusting place, right? Bunch of sweat everywhere and things like that. How do you think this changes the way clubs and bars handle their business?
For better or for worse, you know what I mean? Especially with the people who I work with and the way clubs are run, I've always been a key advocate for safety in the nightlife scene, especially when it comes to cleanliness and all kinds of things, you know what I mean, that could happen, you know what I mean, to customers, bartenders, DJs, things like that. And so, I mean, the club is definitely a place where a lot of people come and they dance and there's fights and things like that, everywhere you go, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, I think that it's important to maybe kind of tell people, if you're sick, if you're not feeling well, even in the future, you know what I mean, coming to the club, having a well-ventilated area, maybe, you know what I mean? Obviously, face masks might still be a thing, maybe in 6 or 7 months, I think it's a very good thing to, kind of go over some rules and maybe set some standards for a lot of these places that have a lot of people, you know what I mean? So
I wonder if they're gonna be how fire extinguishers are mandatory in any business and there's a certain amount that you have to have, and there's a certain amount. Sorry, I have a train going by. There's a certain amount of people that you can have in an establishment. I wonder if that's going to change to where like you have to have per 200 people, you have to have 3 different sanitation areas, right? Or something like that. Like, I wonder what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know yet because of the fact that like we haven't started anything back up yet. But I would imagine that the responsibility lies within the club owners to do their part. I've seen some pretty disgusting things. I'm not going to name nightclubs because the fact that a lot of people will probably get mad at me and say like, oh, that's not the case, But it really was the case. So I've been at several nightclubs in downtown Salt Lake where I saw some really disgusting things that were quite disturbing on a few occasions that would violate so many health and safety standards. You know what I mean? Same in Park City, everywhere you go, I would say. But like I have been in Salt Lake and I was just like, this is pretty bad. You know what I mean? And I don't know like why they're letting people in this bathroom right now kind of thing. I don't know why they're serving food in this time, and I don't own a nightclub. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I do work at them, but for the most part, I was just like, this is a little bit too much, you know what I mean? And maybe I could see in the future, maybe letting less people in the club, kind of giving people a little bit more of a distance, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I mean, a lot of people didn't want to lose money. I think that's kind of what hurt a lot of people is because they didn't want to shut down their establishment soon enough. I think if we would have shut everything down, even way before this happened and quarantined, maybe the 1,000 people that were sick in America, and I got everybody tested, I think we would have saved more money in the long run than trying to earn money while, keeping your club open, you know what I mean? So I think that's going to kind of resonate with a lot of club owners is so if somebody's sick now, if there's a situation here or a situation there, it's definitely going to be handled a lot differently. Hopefully it's handled a lot differently, you know what I mean? But, from the times before, I've seen things that were pretty crazy, so
I think a lot of us DJs have seen things that we don't agree with, and we're like, ooh, that's probably not the best thing, aside from even cleanliness, just business in general and things like that. But with that, obviously there's a loss of income. How are you holding up?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually an advocate for saving money. And so for the most part, I mean, DJing is something that kind of brings in maybe $30,000 to $32,000 a year. If I work really hard at it, I could probably make around 50, but I don't need to make more than a certain amount every year. So I do save a lot of money. I do have a lot put aside. And so it's not a big necessity for me to say, oh my gosh, I'm suffering so much, this is bad. I can afford food every week for $100. I can pay my electric bill, I can pay my water bill. My house is paid off. I don't have to worry about those kinds of things. But that doesn't say much for the other DJs in the community who are struggling. You know what I mean? A lot of people who DJ for a living, they probably won't be able to make their rent. They probably won't be able to, get some food. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they can't afford healthcare. And so I think a lot of people, especially throughout the nightlife circuit, are going to be struggling a lot just because the fact that so many of us depend off of that income. You know what I mean? And that's a key thing for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
man. I appreciate your time, bro. Know that somebody that I know you're the only person that I know has been diagnosed with this virus, and so I think it's important to tell your story and let people know one, what the symptoms are, what's the impact of trying to keep your distance from people, and things like that. So I appreciate you telling your story, and I'm glad to see that you're in good health now.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I mean, thank you for letting me share my story, and I think the last time I talked to you was 7 years ago.
It wasn't that long. It was definitely at the Century Club.
Yeah, that was 7 years ago.
I was gonna ask you though, were you down and sick when the earthquake hit?
Yes, and I've been through a lot of earthquakes in my life, believe it or not. I've been through tornadoes in Tennessee. I've experienced rapid flooding. I've been through a lot of crazy disasters. in my life, and my house that I live in is 120 years old.
Oh shit!
And so I'm remodeling it. So like obviously there's like things everywhere, and I wake up because like I was sick actually. Like I had a really bad fever, and I woke up in the morning time before the earthquake even hit. I think it was around like 6:30, 6:45. I woke up, and I was kind of like walking around, and then all of a sudden like things upstairs started falling down, like a bunch of like scaffolding I had up there. And things like were kind of like the house is all moving, and I looked outside. I looked at the power lines, and the power lines are moving, and I'm like, oh my god, like we are having an earthquake. And I just got out of Los Angeles, and we had two out there, two big ones during the summertime. And so I'm like, what the fuck is going on? We're having a fucking earthquake right now. Like like what's gonna kill me? You know what I mean? Yeah. And this. So I mean, you're gonna get like an exclusive story on top of this too. Just because I haven't told anybody this, and it's kind of embarrassing. So we actually had a second earthquake, and I felt it just as strong as the first one because there was that one in Idaho.
Yeah,
I live actually pretty close to Idaho, so I'm like right there next to Malad. I'm probably like about 40 minutes away. And so I'm sitting at home, and I have like a slight like peanut allergy, nothing crazy. Like I could eat peanut butter or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm drinking this coffee, and like I start getting like a hoarse voice, you know, and I feel like I can't breathe. I'm coughing, and I'm like so scared. I'm like, oh my god, like, you know, the virus is coming back. And so like obviously like I start breathing like heavily, you know what I mean? I start having an anxiety attack, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, like I'm getting sick again. What the fuck? And I'm checking my temperature. My temperature is like high because I'm running around my house. It's like a little bit high. It's like 37.1 Celsius, which is like 98.9, which is ridiculous. Yeah. Like that's like a normal temperature. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh my god, like my body's heating up. And so I went in the bathroom, and I do this thing like where like I stare at myself in the mirror, like I'll get drunk, you know, I'll be like, you're okay. You know? So like, you know, like I like looked in the mirror, and like I put my hands down, and I was like, you're gonna be fucking okay. And then all of a sudden like I started doing this. And I was like, oh my god, like I'm getting fucking sick again. So I get in my car, and I drive to the ER, and I'm putting on my hazmat suit as I get in, you know, and everything. I get in there, and all the symptoms are back. Like I got like I could just feel it for some reason. Like my body like gave me everything back with the anxiety attack I was having. So I go in the ER, I like lay down. I'm like, oh, I'm so sick. And then like they fucking like check me out. They're like, actually, like your lungs are cleared up. Your blood pressure is normal. Your oxygen intake is incredible. All of your blood work looks amazing. And I was just like, oh, okay. And so like I got up, and I felt good, and I was like, oh well, whatever, you know. And so like I walked out of the hospital like kind of limping a little bit to make everybody think like like it was serious, you know. Yeah. And so like I walked out like, oh, and then like I just like once I got out of the ER, like I just like walked straight to my car, you know, skipping around. I get back home, you know, I get on my phone or whatever. I have an app from the USGS or whatever that tells me when earthquakes are happening, and sure as shit, dude, like when I was looking at myself in the mirror telling myself I was going to be okay, that's when that fucking earthquake hit. And
the Idaho one? The 6.5?
Yeah, the one in Idaho, yeah. So my house is like moving, and I thought that was just me getting dizzy. And so
mine's playing tricks on you. That's funny as shit.
Dude, yeah. I'm an idiot, dude. I went to the ER and just wasted like everybody's time.
Well, I'm more thinking about that bill. I'm like, shit, that's another bill.
Oh yeah, I've always had pretty good health insurance, just because like I got diagnosed with a brain tumor back in 2017, and so
I remember.
Yeah, I've been on top of my health insurance like crazy, and so that's one of the key things that I got to just keep up on. And so, luckily, I have good insurance. You know what I mean? And yeah, a lot of the bills I'm getting aren't that bad. But unfortunately, my health insurance is a lot. You know? And so,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have any new projects coming out or anything we should look forward to?
You would think like after I became famous after coronavirus, I'd like drop a mixtape or something.
Yeah, call it the Rona or something. You gotta call it something like that, right? I survived Rona or something.
Yeah, the Sick Tape series. I don't know.
Yeah, the Sick Tape series. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, no. Fuck, man. Like, I work on things once in a while. I did release an album. It was kind of like like an homage to like synthwave and like movie theater sounds and like, you know, driving your car. So it was kind of like a Hot Rod-esque album that I produced. And so I released that, but like I've been trying to like work on more like synthwave stuff and like vocals and like, you know, kind of like a different sound. I don't know what I would call myself. It's definitely not like a hip hop kind of bass thing. It kind of is. I don't know. But like, you know, it's the thought process into creating for me is like, I really have to think about something that gets me motivated to work on it. And so when I become inspired enough to like think of a really good structure, then I could kind of start building things on top of that. Because everything I make, I want to make sure that it's like timeless for people to enjoy throughout time and through the future. Like you could put the CD in now, or you could put it in 10 years, and it would be something that people enjoy and they get inspired by. You know, so I have been working on like a lot of like instrumentals and stuff like that, but I think I'm going to step it up like into something very, very professional for a lot of people. You know, a lot of like, you know, maybe like collaborations. It's kind of hard to gauge, you know what I mean? Just because the fact that like I'm kind of stepping away, like I still scratch, I still cut, I still do those aspects when I'm DJing, but I think for the most part, my performance value is going to change more into like production, live production, and things like that. I definitely want to entertain people on a different front, just because there's like a lot more venues I can explore. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're taking your creative mind and I think you're exploring more. So that's dope to see.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I've been seeing your I don't know if they're TikToks, but where you're making the song out of just shit around your house and your car, your Jeep and shit. I was like, okay, look at Battleship out here making shit.
Yeah, I've been doing those. I don't have a TikTok at all. A lot of people want me to get one, but I'm just not like, you know, a cute teen. You know what I mean? I'm not like a 19-year-old girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't like shake my booty, and I don't know. I don't think I would be successful with TikTok. I was actually pretty good on Vine, but I actually make those videos in Ableton. I pretty much go around, just used to. They take me like 30 minutes to make, and I just kind of go around my house and just kind of like get bored and do those kinds of things or whatever. And those are fun for me. And a lot of people actually ask me questions on how I make those, and so it's fun explaining the process to people who are like inspired by those kinds of things, because I think a good rule of thumb for working on something is having fun with it, because then you get more creative.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what this whole thing is. Like, I don't know if you ever seen some of my podcasts, but it started off with something really small, and then I just was like, yo, what if I added this, or what if I put a layer over here? Or, you know, I mean, what can I do with the technology I have? Can I FaceTime while having my mic on? Right? Like, there's so many different things that I try to add on, so I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And there's like, you know, a world of possibilities, especially like, you know, through videos and, you know, through film and through art and different kinds of mediums that, you know, a lot of people should definitely approach, because that's how things get better, is like through trial and error, you know, and people can criticize those things on top of that too. And it makes it better for a lot of people to recognize that, you know, maybe I should step it up next time, or yeah, that's a good idea, you know, so it does really create like a really good avenue for a lot of creativity.
Other than fixing up your house, how are you passing the time by?
So I haven't told anybody this either. You're getting like the exclusive. Yeah. So I'm actually, so this is kind of crazy. I was working at a food truck in Los Angeles. I worked at a couple of them. I was driving food trucks around all over LA, and I was like selling one that was selling pizzas. I was doing like fried chicken sandwiches. I was doing gumbo for a little bit. I was doing a dessert truck. And so I become inspired like a long time ago with the food truck culture and food in general, but I'd never really known like how to, you know, build something from that, because of the fact that like, you know, I don't know like certain dynamics, you know what I mean? So I decided like, you know, why don't I build a pizza oven? And so I've actually been building a pizza oven in my backyard, a big wood fire pizza oven.
Nice.
And that's one of the things I'm going to do to pass time. I mean, because I don't know like when we're going to be back to work with DJing. I don't know if it's going to ever be the same. On top of that, you know, it's hard to say. And so I decided to build this huge wood fire pizza oven in hopes to sell garlic bread and like little pizzas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, building that. taking care of my dog, remodeling my house. I have been exercising a lot more lately just because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when it's, yeah. So.
Is your oven, is it like a brick oven? I know you said wood fire. How is it structured?
So it has a metal frame. It's pretty big. And it's out in the yard right now. It's kind of like a metal frame kind of looking thing. But it will be a cement vermiculite brick oven. One that has like a little fire in the back. And then obviously the pizzas get rotated inside. So it's going to be like a large scale restaurant style pizza oven. But it's going to be built out of brick and mortar, and then it's going to be able to, supply a ton of garlic bread, because I actually live on commercial property out here in close to Ogden. And so I could actually start a business, open up a little shop here. But I'm just going to start with the basics. The garlic bread thing is just kind of like a good medium for me to gauge what I'm capable of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's exciting. Do you have I know it's something that you're working on piece by piece, but do you have like a date that you want this thing done? Do you want it done before summer, end of summer, before winter?
Definitely before summer. So I'm looking at a finish date before like May 15th.
Dope.
And so, so I'm definitely going to be working on a lot the next couple of weeks or whatever. And so I've got everything I really need. I've looked up a bunch of videos. I've taken a bunch of measurements. I've just done a ton of work on it. And so I'm definitely trying to do it the right way so that I don't have to go back and fix anything. But it's definitely going to be a mid-May done project. So I could probably do a successful launch by June. And so, but it's just going to be it's going to be $3 to $5 garlic bread. So you come in, I made you this garlic bread. It's sliced into 5 sections, a little side of marinara, and then get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna? What are you gonna call it?
I don't know. I mean, it seems kind of stupid, but my friend's dude, you have an Italian name. Antonio's garlic bread would be perfect. And I'm like, fuck, I would attract so many people who think they're Italian.
Yeah, for real. It's the truth.
I don't know. Well, I mean, one of the things I noticed is Italian people are just all over the city, and in Salt Lake, the restaurants are incredible. They're amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not on the spectrum of they are, but I definitely think that garlic bread's kind of a universal thing for a lot of people. And so I'm not trying to front on being Italian. So I don't know, Antonio's Pizzeria or Antonio's garlic bread sounds oh yeah, this guy might be and I kind of have that complexion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit. So people are oh, hey, so I don't want to mislead anybody. So I might just stick to Cruz's garlic bread.
Let this shit grow in a little bit more so you can yeah.
I know, yeah. Just come out, yeah.
It's a pizza. Oh,
yeah. Oh,
that was problematic. They're gonna kill me for saying that.
Oh no, it's okay.
Man,
this is our reparations.
Yeah, for real, right? Man, I appreciate all the insight, man. I'm really glad to see you doing well and being healthy. I'm glad to see the people around you are healthy. I'm gonna continue to quarantine, so hopefully we can get on the phone again soon and chop it up.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Keep me updated with a bunch of stuff too, and let me know what's going on. So
will do. Where can the people catch you at?
Oh man, DJ Battleship Instagram is probably the best you're gonna get out of me out of anything. I've always been an Instagram person. Seems to be the best medium to contact me and to get work and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool, brother. Well, take care. Wash those hands, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
All right, later.